So, like, let's talk about some of the identifiable features of finance capitalist architecture. I think you have like five prongs that I'd love to explore.
Yeah.
Um, the first being creating spaces of crisis. Uh, what does that mean, and how are you able to see that reflected in society?
Yeah, it's great. So the more that built space is treated like an asset or as an asset, and then therefore something similar to a stock on a stock market, the more it is prone to the kind of rises and drops that are inherent to the capitalist economy, right? And the more money that's flowing into that kind of real estate asset environment with its ups and downs, the greater the amplitude is of the kind of boom production and the collapse. So it is a kind of space that is more prone to instances of crises, overbuilding, mass vacancy, and then the subsequent kind of social challenges. And so what we were just talking about, the kind of instances in Ireland and Spain are the most kind of, or some of the most extreme examples of this. But weirdly, you're starting to see a kind of simultaneity in many instances of booming and mass vacancies and kind of the semblance of crises. So these kind of ghost cities, for instance, in China are an example of this, like huge speculative construction that is ongoing with like ongoing high degrees of vacancy. So this is the kind of example of the propensity of finance capitalist architecture for kind of ongoing space of crises.
I mean, here in Manhattan, the billionaire, or I'm actually in Brooklyn, but here in New York, in Manhattan at least, and also in downtown Brooklyn, we're seeing these huge luxury buildings being built at a rapid rate. But particularly was it the Billionaires Row around Midtown, like 57th, 59th Street, is just littered with these luxury developments, and they look exactly as you describe, like these luxury apartments. They scream capitalism and they fit into kind of the Midtown office space look, but they are apartments that are empty, really empty. Can you talk about that phenomenon more broadly in urban spaces?
Yeah, absolutely. So the phenomena of owned but empty, usually or often condominium units. So these towers in Midtown Manhattan are condominiums. So they're an amazing example of built space being considered more as a place to store wealth and for its speculative possibilities than its use value, its inhabitability. So this owned but empty phenomena is a kind of like literally, these are not so much for living in, they're for something else. This is a phenomena that is like hyper visible and hyper pronounced in Midtown Manhattan with these incredibly tall towers, but it is a phenomena that is happening in cities around the world. So it seems to be a dominant characteristic of contemporary urbanization, contemporary architecture, and contemporary capitalism. So you can find it in extreme forms in Vancouver, Toronto, London, Paris, so much so that cities are really trying to grapple with this kind of new form of vacancy and instituting all sorts of rules and regulations in places that are meant to combat it. So Paris has a vacant home tax. Toronto, one is just coming into effect. Vancouver instituted one a few years ago, trying to figure out, saying, wait, what is this kind of new form of the city with all of these new buildings that are significantly empty? So it's a prominent characteristic that really illustrates in stark terms the phenomena that's happening, and cities and kind of people are trying to grapple with what it means.
At least in Europe, though, there already is